Hello, everyone, and good whatever wonderful moment of this day you are enjoying on your time zones. Welcome to yet another conversation part of our Hacking HR April series. And today we will be speaking about future proofing the workforce, and even more specifically about skills development and career pathing. My name is Minola Jacques. I will be your co host for the next hour. We have Jessa backstage taking super good care of us. And we have an amazing lineup of speakers who just want to come and share their insights. Now, while they will pop up on our screens, I would just like to welcome everybody in our audience today. And I do have a big request for help just to kick us off. If you can just start dropping a few comments in the chat, just let us know maybe where you're listening in or where you're watching us from, because that will serve two purposes. First, we will see that at least technology is working. And second, we will travel vicariously through your locations around the world. So I do see at least one comment came through. So that's great. That's a great beginning. And also, I would just encourage everybody to use the chat as your own conversation space. Whatever it is that we are touching on in our panel conversation, feel free to drop your own comments, your own ideas, your own thoughts, your own stories, if you have stories to share with us, because that is really what keeps this community growing and learning from one another. Now, wrapping up my intro blabathon there, and let's make the most out of our time today. And you know the drill. The first question has two easy parts. First, just shortly introduce yourselves, and then I was curious because Enrique comes up with the titles of the panels. So I will read the title again: Future Proofing Your Workforce, Skills Development and Career Pathing. What is the first word that comes to your mind when you hear the title of this panel? Now, I will pass the e-mic around clockwise as you appear on my screen. Anuja, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much. And I think that's a great point to begin with. I was thinking of the exact same thing, Minola. It's like you read my mind. I said, hey, when you bulletproof something, you're protecting yourself from attack, you're making yourself safe, right? But when we say future proof, it's more about preparing for the future and not protecting from it. So I love this discussion. I am super passionate about career development, career pathing, skill development. I've been in the HR and learning and development side of the world for about 20 years. I'm currently working with Metro. So folks in the DC area, I'm sure you must have traveled by the Metro. I take care of the leadership development programs, executive coaching, and super thrilled to be here today.
Thank you so very much. Jess, good to see you.
It's great to see you as well. Hi, everyone. I'm Jess Goldberg. I'm really excited to be here, especially because future proofing is exactly what I do. So I have sat at the intersection of AI and human potential. I used to be the VP at an AI robotics company, and then I teach leadership and future skills at Columbia University. So really, I kind of sit at the intersection, and now I've been starting to bring these skills into companies. So I go inside companies and help them train up their leaders to be able to understand how to use AI and what skills won't be able to be replaced by AI that we have to really develop. So I'm really excited to be at this panel today. And one of the things that comes, you ask for the one word that kind of comes to mind, for me, it's possibility. There is so much possibility with the new technological developments, with what we can do to make ourselves advance.
I love this so much. Thank you. Emilia, good to see you. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. Hi from Argentina. I am in Argentina. I have been working in HR for more than 15 years in different companies, and now I am working at Workana, which is the freelancer platform leading Latin America. And for me, this is a very day-to-day challenge. I mean, this title is what we always discuss here, because this new way of working, how people need to work that is different than so many years ago, are challenging us a lot. And it's more skill driven than jobs or titles driven, the future or the present also. So for me, the word that came to my mind is opportunities.
So we had preparedness over protection, and we had possibility, and we have Emilia, I have a mental hiccup now.
Opportunities.
Opportunities. So there's still hope for my memory. I was thinking back to many Hacking HR panels from 2 or 3 years back, and there was the hype of future of work, and everybody was talking about the future of work, and everybody talking about the future of work is the now of work. So before we dive very, very deep into probably the strategic and technical aspects of our topic, I would like to maybe get a sense of the time horizon. So when we talk about future proofing, what is the time expectation, or what is the time potential that you have in your mind? And I will just leave that question there, and we will do this popcorn style, and let's see who wins the unmuting competition for this one.
I can go first.
Anuja.
So remember, everybody on the panel and audience, before COVID, in the interviews, there was this question, where do you see yourself 10 years later, right? And I was stumped by this question even at that time, but I managed to cook up some responses. After COVID, we can't even predict what's going to happen tomorrow. And I'm being completely honest as I say that. We think we know, we have this illusion of control, but we are really not ready. We cannot predict how things will change. And I think COVID has just made this so glaringly evident. Even today, when we sit down to talk about, hey, what do the future skills look like? Or how will we cope with all of the challenges that are coming up? The truth is, we do not know. And therefore, all we can do is look around us, look at what are the trends, look at what are some of our challenges, and what are the innovative solutions that our people can start thinking and working on. And not just one of those, but multiple solutions. So in an agile manner, we can move forward with whatever is most relevant and most productive in that situation. So answering your question, what does that timeline look like? For me, it could just be a couple of hours because things and priorities change. But if we're able to plan for the next year or two, I think we're in a good space. For me, that's enough of a target.
Thank you. Any other timeline? Jess?
Yeah, I love what you were saying about how things are changing every single day. And I very much agree. I think the timeline is actually right now, that technology is moving at such a fast pace, faster than many of us can keep up with. And when we think about future proofing, we're already seeing lots of jobs being lost right now, people being laid off. And right now is the time to actually start figuring out, how do we future proof our workforce? How do we actually figure out what are the things that the AI and these other technologies are going to replace, and what are the ones that are not going to be able to be replaced, the ones that we need to focus in on. And when we think about this, look, there are so many skills that we as humans distinctly need to be able to focus and work on. And I really deeply believe that AI is not coming for your jobs. It's not coming for all of your team's jobs. It's coming for some of your tasks. And just like when the computer first came out, it took away some tasks. When we came out with the computer, the people who wrote on typewriters before now didn't have jobs, but they learned how to use computers instead. And so that is really what's going to be happening here. We have to teach our workforces how to use AI properly, the ethics around it, and that timeline is now, because if we do not make these decisions now, we will not be part of them in 10 years. And we want to be part of them now.
I agree with both. I think that there is no timeline. Timeline is now, and also there is no plan as before. Before, some years ago, you know that you started as an analyst, then you go in your career track, growing like this. No, now you need to be open to different experiences. And for me, the key point here is for each of us understand where we are strong. In those skills that we are strong naturally, that there are many of those, we need to keep growing on those and try to find the way to put them front and center for everybody, for the jobs we are applying, the projects we are in. So it's the other way around. We have a lot of work to be done, and nobody's going to be making a plan for us.
Mm.
Yeah.
I've been trying to come up with a wording for the next question that is non-judgmental. So I didn't want to word it as what are the opportunities. I didn't want to word it as what are the challenges. So the best I could come up with was what are some of the key trends? What are some of the key highlights that you see within the area of skills development and career pathing within a reality that is so heterogeneous? COVID changed or accelerated the change of the social contracts for many of us with our works. There are so many opportunities out there, from remote, hybrid, freelance, gigs, you name it, we can do it now. So in this such diverse reality with so many options, what are some of the key trends that you see around skills development and career pathing? And Jess, I would ask you to lead us into this one.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a bunch of key things that are changing. So we're shifting to be more digitally first. We're seeing AI, rapidly advance. And what AI is really, for those of you who are new to understanding AI, in many ways, the biggest one that is the large language model. So many of you know of ChatGPT, and I like to think of it as kind of like autocomplete on steroids. It's really good at helping with repetitive tasks. So those tasks that don't require as much from you, but the repetitive tasks, those are the ones that it's really good at taking over. But the things that humans still need to be really good at are decision making, leadership. AI is very, very bad at decision making because, look, think about it. It has to do with morals and ethics. And we as humans need to make those choices. This is why I'm saying all of you need to be involved in the decisions that are going to be made. I'm just going to give you one example of what that looks like. So for instance, an AI model could choose, say it was going to run Facebook or Instagram or TikTok for us. What would it decide? Do we want content moderation or do we want freedom of speech? Now that is a decision that we need humans to decide. Once we make the decision of what it is, AI could then run a model around what happens. But we need to be, as humans, the ones who are making the decision. So we really need to get better at decision making and ethics and morals and leadership skills. Truly, leadership skills are going to be the most important skill that you can have if you want to future proof your career, because no one's going to want to be led by an AI machine. It doesn't have empathy. It doesn't have understanding. It doesn't have context. There's a lot of things that it's missing, that you really need a human connection to be able to have a leader that's going to lead you.
Great points. Who wants to continue?
I think that there are many studies going around this and which are the future skills of what we need to highlight. The World Economic Forum had a study that for me is very a good one that says that the main skills that someone needs in this decade are complex problem solving skills, critical thinking, creativity are the first three. Then goes people management, and coordinating with others and make others work with you and try to engage others. Those are the first five ones. And I completely agree because technology and everything, for example, let's say AI, and we all use ChatGPT, but you have to ask the right question. And the right questions come from your thinking, your critical thinking, your analysis. And from there, yes, human beings needs to challenge themselves and develop those skills. And nothing to say and to add on what Jess said regarding leadership. Just if you can recap your life, the COVID pandemic challenged leadership a lot because you had to be front and center for your team and supporting, and many soft skills came out or were needed. Remote work also needs that because you need to connect with someone through technology, and that is a skill. And this, as Jess said, the technology or AI will not solve this issue. We as humans need more real connections as ever, more than ever. So I think that the part of problem solving and defining the problem and critical thinking and the human connection side of the equation are both the things that will be needed.
Anuja.
I love the two things that Jess and Emilia you've spoken about. I think the third piece of the puzzle for me is, and I'm going to reference what Iris said in the chat, it is about knowing yourself, it's about knowing your strengths. I'm very wary of trends because I can't jump on the machine learning bandwagon. I know nothing about machine learning, right? Does that mean that I will be left behind in the future? Not if I'm able to understand my strengths and combine those with the technological advancements that may come across. How does that look like? For a recruiter or an HR professional, if you're able to use AI in your daily tasks and see where that is marginally or significantly better than what you could do on your own, and then where is your secret sauce? What do you add to your job role and your organization? I love reading books. So if you've read Seth Godin's Linchpin, it talks about not being perfect at everything. It's about knowing that you can prepare yourself and learn what's happening. So learning agility is a big piece, right? Being open to learning, reaching out to people to learn from them, whether it's going for a course, finding a mentor for yourself within or outside the organization, and then defining for myself what is it that I enjoy doing and do well, and how can I contribute to my team, to my organization. So I really find the Strengths Finder, as a Gallup coach and Hogan coach, I find the Strengths Finder very useful in identifying my talents and using that to craft a career development plan that makes me useful to my team and organization in the future. That's what talent looks like, right? The talent that everybody wants is the talent that is going to continue to be useful no matter how the job landscape changes. So those are my 2 cents.
I'm sure that if we take 2 seconds, us being panelists and people in the audience, and we read the title of the panel again, we can think of at least one senior stakeholder within our organizations who will automatically go to, oh yeah, that HR thingy, skill development and career pathing, that's HR, and shove it in the HR bucket. So my next question is, who are the key stakeholders, the key decision makers around future-proofing the workforce? And basically, not only who's who in the zoo, but also who does what. And Emilia, I would invite you to go first.
For me, for sure, leaders are the main key stakeholders because they need to understand that they need to change first for them to make changes in their workforce or their teams. So those are the main stakeholders, but they are not the ones that are speaking louder today. The ones that are speaking louder are the talents, the people that is talented and needed to work in a different way. There is always a phrase that says the war for talent, or we are being always in HR thinking about, oh, we are in a war of talent and everybody's competing about talent. That war is finished and the war was won by the talent. They are now deciding and making the decisions on what they want. So going back to your question, I think that leaders needs to be, I am not saying that they are usually, but they needs to be front and center with this.
Yeah. Let's see who wants to stay safe from the hot seat of going last on this one.
I can jump in and share next. I really think everyone needs to be involved, no matter what role you are. If you are an intern, if you are the CEO, everyone needs to care about this. And really, if you are not in a position of power, you are someone who should raise your voice around this. Make sure that it's known that this is something that you care about at your organization. Collectively, we are more powerful together. Collectively, we get to make decisions of how we use this technology. And so the companies that will survive are the ones that are going to still, no company will be able to just have no employees whatsoever. And so they'll need some employees. And so the companies that do this, that actually care about skill development, that care about pathing, those are going to be the ones that are going to survive, because those are going to be the ones that the employees are going to want to stay at. So if you are an individual, it's important that you figure out, okay, where's the companies that I want to be at that are going to help me develop my skills and my career pathing? And then if you are an HR manager and you really want to make sure that your company does this and supports all the individuals, obviously you need to get the stakeholder of the CEO on board. That is the foremost and most important person to get on board is for them to believe that this is important. How do you make them believe that it's important? You talk to them about how it's not just future-proofing them, the employees, but it's making the company better. How can you accelerate growth for the company by investing in your employees? You definitely can. And that's the argument that you need to start to make. And there's so much data to back that up, that when we invest in our employees, the retention is better, the growth is better, the productivity is better, all these things are better. And so I really say, really invest in trying to get the key stakeholder, which is the CEO of your company, on board.
So, well, this is the hot seat then, isn't it? Because we've spoken about the people themselves, the leaders, the HR team. So I think the only person left now, the group of people, is managers. And I think they're closest to the employees. They know the pulse of their team members. What is it that they would like to do in future? What are they good at? And through their regular one-on-one conversations, they will be able to provide them not just ideas on what the team priorities and goals are, but what does the organization vision look like? And therefore, joining the dots to what are the opportunities for people to develop and what is it that they enjoy doing. So with, of course, the blessings of the leadership, there is budget that is required for these activities. I'm not going to say that, hey, everybody can own it on their own. But what are the opportunities that can be made available for the masses? And then what are some of the niche skills that relate to certain roles, especially the critical roles in the organization? As we think of succession planning, we're looking at layoffs, we're looking at the war for talent. How can we engage the best of our people and give them an opportunity to grow in the organization? We look back at some of these organizations. Speaking of Metro, people have worked here for 50 years. And that is amazing when people change jobs in a few months here, right? So I truly believe that if managers are able to connect with their team members, take what they learn back to the HR and leadership, and then craft those solutions which will enable people to develop, stay engaged in their jobs, learn, and contribute to the organization.
Listening to your questions, I was very, very tempted to jump into a technical question, something along the lines of, okay, for everybody in the audience who is already feeling inspired to do this meaningful piece of work, where can they begin to actually do it? So I will park that question for just a few minutes, because you triggered a bit of curiosity. What are some of the organizational prerequisites for this future-proofing work to be truly meaningful and feasible and sustainable? And that's a very open question. Is it something about the culture? Is it something about pre-existing organizational capabilities? What is it? And please jump in as inspiration strikes.
I would say the first and most important thing is a level of openness, a level of curiosity. We cannot be open to learning if we are incredibly in a state of fear. And a lot of us are in a state of fear, and that's okay. But we need to put that fear just with us and just do it anyways, even if we're scared. We might say, oh, I've never had a technological background before. How could I even start to use AI? That's not my thing. Try to just go push past that fear, that little bit of scaredness, and try to start developing those skills. And that's really what an organization needs the most, is this curiosity, openness, and ability to just push past fear to be able to learn and grow. And that is the most important fundamental thing to me.
I think what organizations can offer to employees is opportunity and resources to think through their own career development plans. And as we work on our day-to-day jobs, we don't realize where our careers are drifting towards. So if we can be more intentional about that, right? Again, I've worked with some great organizations where they've offered employees an opportunity to list some of their focus skills, right? Things that they would learn and develop and like to work with. And then the resources for them to work on those skills. So whether it's related to the industry, related to your specific role, whether you want to be a people manager or you're happy being a specialist. And that brings me to career pathing, right? Allowing people to think through what are the things they enjoy and they're good at, and then building their roles around those interest areas. Unfortunately, people assume that if they want to grow in the organization, they have to move to a management position. And can organizations create opportunities where they say, hey, you don't have to, right? We've looked at T-shaped individuals, V, M, all of the letters of the alphabet. And how can we offer you an opportunity? Because that is diversity in its true form. It's not just about race and background and education. It's also about what kind of role would you best be happy working in? And can organizations offer that? So building a career development plan that allows you to think of your goals, your values, what are the things that you truly enjoy doing, and then what are the resources in a very smart format so that it's specific, measurable, relevant, and time bound. If this is something that companies mandate and support with, I think employees will slowly try to get out of their comfort zone and start thinking of this is what the organization is investing in for my development, for my growth and success. And therefore, I need to take that plunge, even if I'm scared, and find the time in my daily job to work towards my own development and growth.
For me, what the organizations needs are they need to change their mindset completely, and that's scary, and that is risky sometimes, and that is open to learn, and learn involves mistakes of always. So they have to be brave to change the mindset. That for me is the first thing that they need to start doing is to replace jobs by skills. That is not the same. You do not need to think about what needs to be done in terms of jobs, positions, job description, and all those things, but skills, and find a way you can fill the project, I don't know, the work that needs to be done with the skills. And that is building very dynamic teams. That is what will develop the people in the organization, because they will be part of different challenges and different things. And also that means making some others that are outside the organization part of the organization for that time, just to put some skill in this process. And this is a completely different way of thinking careers, of thinking work, of thinking how a company works, and this change culture always. But this also brings good opportunities for people, because we do not want to give them opportunities just, but yes, good opportunities for development and growth, and feel that they are useful. It sounds simple, but sometimes we miss that part. So again, for me, mindset, change the word jobs by skills, and this will change completely how you see what needs to be done.
So as we are just a couple of minutes away from the middle of our hour together, I do want to keep myself honest to the promise I made to talk about, what can people from the audience do tomorrow or right after this panel, as we are across different time zones, and some of us will still have almost one full day of work ahead. How can they go back into their organizations and look around at the workforce landscape and understand where they are in terms of skill development and career pathing, and what could some maybe priority focus areas can be? And Anusha, I saw you nodding, and I would invite you to go first.
Thank you. I've been doing this for a while and I love this. So, which is why you see that smile on my face. I think, it's always easy to go out and ask others that, hey, what do you have for me? But the first question is, do I know myself? Do I know what are my goals and values, right? So I think self-awareness and reflection plays a huge role in trying to figure out what your future looks like. The future will look different for everybody, right? For every organization. But what does it look like for me? What do I want for myself in the future? And going from here to there, which is what are my current skills and abilities? And what does that future ideal perfect role for me look like? And then trying to bridge that gap by going out to my manager, going out to the HR and L&D team, asking them the right questions about, hey, I want to work on this particular role, or this is my ideal role. I want to be the CEO of the organization. What are the skills? What are the items that I need to work on and develop? What is it that I can do right away in the next 3 to 6 months? But then where do I need a mentor or some kind of support mechanism to take me to that future role? And constant feedback, working with different people to find out if I'm on the right track, being able to course correct to say, okay, I thought I wanted to be the CEO, but I don't think that really aligns with what my definition of happiness looks like. Going back to change that. So I think when we talk about future proofing and career pathing, it's really about continuous learning, keeping your eyes and ears open. There are new roles that are emerging. Is that something that you would enjoy doing, right? Working with that person, not just reaching out to the leaders of the organization, but to maybe somebody on your team that is working on a fantastic project and saying, hey, can you walk me through what's happening? And could you just, show me how it's done? And can I support you with anything? I think whatever we're able to do in our own sphere of control is greater, more powerful, and that helps us and enables us to build our career development plan for the future. So again, I'm a huge proponent of own my growth and doing what you can and then seeking help where you need it.
That's powerful. Emilia, would you like to take it further?
For sure. I think that I will recap on something that I just said regarding skills. My suggestion would be focus on your skills. Find out what are those that you are good at, your strength, yours. And if you're an HR person dealing with this in your organization, try to move that mindset from jobs and I don't know, a whole life career to skill setting and understanding. Skill mapping is one of the main things that we are HR doing now. Um, Start by that. Think about the skills. Find out where are the people, the talents you have, what skills they have, how you can highlight those. And I think that that's something that needs to change the way we think about work, but it's necessary to be done.
It's beautiful. Yeah, I love what both of you two are saying. Thinking about what you want for your future is really important. Thinking about your skills. And I'll just add another layer to that. So there are two different types of skills that I think that we need to be working on in order to future-proof ourselves. There are the soft skills and the technological skills. And just so we know, we call them soft. We've gotten this illusion that soft means that they're like easy or fluffy, but soft actually comes from the word that they're not hardware. And the US military came up with that term to call them soft skills because they're not hardware skills. So just to make that little distinction. So there's the kind of leadership, interpersonal skills, and understanding which are your strengths of those and which are your weaknesses of those, the ones that AI cannot replace, and being able to advance and get better at those is really important. And I have kind of a free guide that goes through kind of the 8 archetypes I have of a leader that you need to develop, the skills that I don't think AI will be able to replace, and a quiz at the end if you want to be able to assess which ones you are strong at and which ones you are not. So I'll throw that into the chat in a moment. So there's figuring out which are your strong soft skills, which ones are your weak ones, and how can you advance and get better at the ones that you're weak at and double down on the ones that you're good at. Then there's the technological skills. And as scary as it is, you need to figure out, how do I actually get better at using some of this technology? How do I make sure that I start to incorporate it somewhat into my life? That way, there are scary things about what could happen with AI, but most of those scary things to me are humans misusing them. And so we need to have an understanding of how to use it ourselves so we can make better decisions of how our company should or should not use it. So really that starts with just starting to play with prompt engineering. And that means just going into ChatGPT and figuring out, is there a repeatable task? Is there something that I need to write? How can I just start to play with and understand and get better at that? And certainly there are courses that can train it. I come into companies and help train up, individuals to be able to understand the distinction between these and get better at prompt engineering. But really just starting to learn and play with it yourself is the first thing you could do today.
I love the distinction you made there, Jess, and I was looking through my phone because I wanted to make sure I got the exact quote. So there's this quote from Josh Bersin, and he talks about the difference between hard skills and soft skills. And what he said was, hard skills are soft in that they change all the time, are constantly being obsoleted, and are relatively easy to learn. And soft skills are hard, meaning they are difficult to build, critical, and take extreme effort to obtain. So that is one quote that I oftentimes use in my work with my colleagues within the HR community, and it can unlock some really powerful conversations. But we touched a little bit on these, but my invitation to the three of you is to take this conversation a little bit deeper. What are the skills underpinning skill development and career pathing? We mentioned a few of them every here and there throughout the conversation. And please know, as usual, there are extra points available for skills that are really surprising to attach to skills development and career pathing. So anything that is not immediately linked with this area. And let's see, where do we go? Anuja.
The first thing that comes to my mind is learning agility. Because everything that could be learned is really stemming from the willingness to learn, right? Whether it's a technical skill, it's a behavioral skill, or a soft skill, or a foundational skill. There are so many terms for it these days. But really, it's about agility, it's about willingness, and then trying to balance what is it that is going to help you in all the particular roles that you play. For example, like Jess mentioned, decision making is a big one. Resilience and emotional intelligence. There is absolutely no role that can survive without these top skills. And if you look at all of the top skills of the future, 2025, and so on that are published, you will see that these behavioral skills make up the top 5 of the top 10 skills. So learning agility, resilience, emotional intelligence are definitely the top ones for me.
Thank you. Jess.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to dive in next. So there's a bunch of different skills that are really unique to humans that we need to continue to double down on. The very first one, and you said go for the unique or ironic one that we might not guess, is creativity. Now, people might say, oh, but ChatGPT can write poems, it can write sonnets, it can write music, it can come up with movies now. So isn't it more creative than humans? It's not. And I'm going to teach you why. So the way that large language models work is they take all of what's been done before, and then they basically predict what would be great in the future. So they basically create based upon what's happened in the past, based upon if it's read all of Shakespeare's sonnets, what's going to be a great sonnet to write now. But it's based on the past. Human level creativity doesn't happen like that. So you can think of AI as almost like it can create very creatively within a box. So it doesn't think outside the box, but the box that it has is very big. So sometimes it can seem like it's much better creatively. But human ingenuity is so different. A human might look at a pair of shoelaces and think, oh, I should make an art piece out of that. AI would never create that. Human ingenuity created the iPhone. If you plugged in the parameters for what you needed, a device to help people communicate, the iPhone is not what would have been created. This was Steve Jobs' innovation, his ideas to think far beyond, to have a vision of what was possible to create. And so human ingenuity and creativity will always go far beyond what AI can do. And so on the surface, sometimes it might seem like AI is better creatively, but human creativity is definitely far more advanced. So that's just one. But another skill that's really important to develop, and I touched on this a little bit before, is that human connection, the ability for us to connect. And now this one might be a little bit ironic as well, because people say, oh, but I can have a conversation with ChatGPT. It feels like I'm almost speaking to a human. But on some level in our subconscious, we know that it does not have a subjective experience. So it is not true connection. It has connectivity. It has a way of speaking eloquently, but it does not have the experience of knowing what it's like to be hungry, the experience of knowing what it's like to have your kids at home and sick and trying to work at the same time. An AI manager wouldn't be able to truly understand what it's like to balance the demands of taking care of your children, balancing your partner, balancing a parent who's also passing away. Those are challenges that we as humans distinctly get to understand and experience and connect over. And so that is really important, being able to figure out how do we connect more deeply with the people around us. And as leaders, how do we make sure that we use that empathy and understanding to help understand where our employee is at and what they need most to help them be able to thrive in the workforce. So those are two really critical skills that are really important. And then the third one that I just want to double down on is ethics and morality. AI is incredibly biased. Amazon tried to create this version of hiring where it looked at all the past candidates and they tried to create an algorithm so that they could look at future resumes to figure out who was the best person to hire. But unfortunately, what happened when this AI algorithm started picking the best resumes, it was all men. And that's because in the past, that was what we wanted. That in the past, that was what was hired well, was men. But now, currently, that is not what we want. And so we as humans need to be involved in what these algorithms are built around. What are the motivations? What are the goals that we want? And so this is why I really encourage all of you to start understanding AI a little bit more so you can be part of the decision. You don't want to be not part of the decisions of how these algorithms will be built.
Well, I completely agree with both of them. I am just adding another side of this, that is critical thinking, and together with this, problem solving. That is another skill that is being very highlighted nowadays. For me, those are very important. We are very used to find easy answers. We are very used to find Google something or whatever we need. But if we look at in deeper and is something that is critical for organizations, we are not perhaps solving the right problems because we are not thinking about those. So defining a problem, understanding what the problem is, that critical thinking of linking things and understanding the landscape where we are or everything, really you need to develop that. And sometimes develop this is just take a moment. No, sometimes you do not need to run, and you need to take the time to understand what is going on in your organization, in your life, in everything. So critical thinking is something that we really need to do, and this requires stop and think. And this together with problem solving, I think that those two, just to add, because I really agree with what the girl said.
What are some of the biggest, most recent misassumptions or misperceptions or pitfalls associated with future-proofing workforce you have come across? Can you think of anything? Can you think of a story of a particular I ran out of English, or of a particular conversation on this topic? Emilia, would you like to go first on this one?
I'm thinking the first that came up to my mind had to do with remote work and connections, human connections. I mean, most of the people say that they need to go back to presence to the office because they need that connection. And I think that first of all, when we all work the whole day in the office, the past, we were not really connecting to each other. This needs an intention. The connection needs first an intention to connect. So remote work is not a way of being behind or not connecting to other. No, but yes, it needs to be developed. This is another skill for the leaders to connect through technology, really connect with the people. So I think that's something that is misunderstood. And I think that because remote work is not home office, it's very different. Remote work needs specific ways of working, specific rituals, specific things that make this happen. So this is the first thing that came up to my mind. I had a lot of conversations like those every day, I would say. Yeah.
Thank you.
I think one of the biggest assumptions that organizations and people have are there are only a set of skills or a set of roles or very, very specific talent that is going to survive in the future, right? And those are the people that get the highest paid jobs. Those are the titles that are the most in demand. Those are the courses or certifications that everybody wants to complete because, hey, those are supposed to work in the future, right? I want to bust that myth. I think all of us will continue to have jobs as long as we continue to deliver value. And going back to what Jess said, AI is not going to take away our jobs if we can add value beyond what AI can deliver. So whether it is adding creativity to our jobs or bringing in ideas and initiatives, and that is something that is very unique to us. It's very specific to the kind of talents we have. Um, and I'm talking about, about 12 years ago when I was working with IBM, and there was this tool called Neuro Language. And it could pick up, accent and pronunciation errors. It could offer suggestions around, what's a better way to speak so that people are able to understand what you're saying. And the trainers at that time, the communication and language trainers, were worried that this tool is going to take away our jobs, right? It did not, because the tool was not perfect. There were some words that were not recognized by the tool, or there were some pronunciations that were accepted in different parts of the world. And that's where the trainers came in with their knowledge and experience. So there is not just one role or one title that will continue to exist in future. Like Darwin said, survival of the fittest. Whatever you're doing, if you're able to build on that, deliver value, you will continue to carve a role for yourself and create value for your team. If people can say your name for a particular job or skill, and if you're good at it, if you're willing to learn, contribute, fail, that's the biggest one, right? Fail and understand where that skill does not work and what are the other solutions you can use to make that work. So again, what I'm saying is there's not just one talent or one skill. There's jobs for all of us, and we need to keep working, continuously learning, upskilling, reskilling, finding out what's going to be helpful for my team and organization in future so that I continue to have that space and value.
That's really beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. I agree a lot with what you said, and there's 2 more points that I want to kind of double down on. So first one, it kind of builds off a little bit of what you were saying about with the language and the expertise. So the biggest misconception people have around AI is that it's more knowledgeable than humans. Now, it depends on how we define knowledge. Knowledge is certainly knowing a vast amount of information, but humans are far wiser. Humans know how to use what information when. And that's because they have the context, they have the understanding of their unique organization. AI might be able to give you suggestions around, what direction should you take your business in, but it doesn't have all the context. It doesn't understand what repercussions might happen if you make a certain decision. And so as humans, we have far more wisdom, and that is going to be very, very valuable, and especially valuable for your individual role. So figure out what's the unique wisdom that you have in your role that makes it special, that makes it different, that you have, that can't totally be replaced. So that's one. The second thing that I think is a common misconception is that AI is taking over human jobs and human excellence and human intelligence. I don't think that's correct at all. I have a very controversial opinion that as technology develops, we actually learn and figure out what makes us human more. So, for instance, when we first developed technology to be able to help us pick berries without humans, in the beginning, people were like, oh my goodness, this is taking away a skill that's human. This is what we've always done as humans. As cave people, we went and we picked berries. That's what makes us human, is picking our food and creating our food. But now, do we think that picking our own food is what makes us human? Would anyone in this room say that picking my own food is what makes me human? It's not. That's not what makes you human. And so does writing an essay make you human? 100 years from now, we might not say that that's what makes us human anymore, that sharing those things is not what makes us human. So we're going to discover, as technology develops more and more, what actually makes us human.
I just had a wild idea for the next question. And we talked so much about learning. So actually, this question is an invitation to also cover unlearning and relearning. And it's a bit of a more personal question. So as you look at your own journey through skills development and career pathing, what was the biggest unlearning that you had to go through in order to get where you are today and in order to get where you want to go in whatever future timeline you have in mind? And I will just give you a few seconds to think about it. And just welcome everybody who joined a little bit later. And before we start getting those questions, I will anticipate them. And yes, this conversation is being recorded, so you can always go back and watch the moments that you enjoyed most, or recommend it to other people in your life and work. So, what is your biggest unlearning in terms of skills development and career pathing on your own journey? Let's see who wants to go first. Oh,
Go ahead, Amelia, go ahead.
Me? Okay. I just thinking, but I think that maternity for me was something that brings me a lot of learnings and regarding my career, because what changed me most is before I love reading, and I thought that I needed to have a lot of knowledge and read a lot and learn a lot and understand a lot before, for example, taking a role or taking a responsibility or something, or a challenge in my career. And being a mom of a 1-year-old girl for me was like impossible. I had no more a lot of time to put in that task. So I started putting myself into different challenges that appear, opportunities that I saw, and the most learning was I do not need to know everything to start. I do not need to be a subject matter expert to lead an area. For example, I know I have to stand on my own skills and the ones that I have, and learn from there. And while doing, and yes, sometimes I need to read something, a book, I don't know, learning or something. Yes, something formal. Yes, I need it, but the main learning came from not from giving more time, but start rolling and putting myself into different opportunities.
That's a great story.
I'm big on the human aspect of this. And one of the things I'm thinking of is who we are right now is shaped by our experiences, our childhood, the bringing we had, our social circle. And one of the things I bet everybody in this room has heard is that if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. And people want to hear what they like, or what sounds good. I think some of the best moments in my life, some of the growth opportunities in my life have emerged from the times I challenged people, I asked questions, and I made my viewpoint known. And of course, you have to do it kindly. Like, radical candor, Kim Scott says, it has to be personable, right? It has to be kind, but it also has to be honest. And therefore, for me, I think what is really important when we talk about skills is one, being able to be authentic, to say what you really think and want. And that involves a fair bit of assertiveness and personal courage. But at the same time, also saying that, hey, I don't know how to do this, or I did something wrong, being vulnerable, and being able to share that to say, could you help me here? Because you're obviously so good at it, and I could do with some support. I think that is the human aspect of any kind of learning, any kind of team that we work with, to be able to say, I don't know something, I want to learn, having a growth mindset, and being authentic in expressing your feedback and your options as well.
Thank you. Jess.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, when we talk about the biggest unlearning that I've had in my career path, I used to always think that career path was like this. It just continues on a straight line upwards. And over time, as long as you work hard, you just continue to take steps forward. And that certainly was the way maybe 50 years ago, where there was certain very, structured career paths. But what I've really learned is that the bravest thing that we can do is be a beginner again. And that cannot tell you how many times I was on a career path I thought I was meant to be on, left, and then had to get really vulnerable about being not good at something again. I didn't always have AI as a background. I was a journalist for a really long time. Writing was my expertise. The idea of having something else write for me was horrifying a decade ago. And so it was really something new that I had to develop. It was something that, was scary at first. And then I learned, and then I slowly started to become an expert in it. But there are many different things that this happened for me in, where I wasn't a leader for a long time. And then I got my first leadership role, And I felt like a bumbling fool in the beginning. I didn't know how to, organize a meeting, how to get people to follow me. And then I had to learn and grow. And so it's okay to be a beginner again. And that's just really what I want to remind you all in your career and skill development. Don't be afraid of a skill that you're not as good at. It's okay to be a beginner. It's okay to not be good at that, even if you're an expert in something else. And that's actually what's going to help you develop the most, is being vulnerable enough to be able to develop the skills and be able to practice the skills when you're not as good at them.
These were absolutely wonderful sharings, and I couldn't thank you all enough for bringing these into our conversation. Now, we are about a handful of minutes away from closing this time together, and I want to be mindful, and I want to honor the reality of quite a few people in our audience who live in the reality of an HR function of one. So as we look at everything that they have to tackle, is there any advice? Is there any recommendation on how they could maybe prioritize, or how they could get extra help and advocacy from within the organization? Do you want to repeat or highlight something that we already said, or anything that you believe it's meaningful and helpful for those HR function of ones out there? And how should we go? We will go Anuja, Jess, and Emilia.
Okay. HR functions of one, definitely a reality, been there. I think it's very important to get sponsors and advocates and champions right from the leadership to the employee and individual level, right? And encourage them to start thinking of what their roles, what their careers look like, what do they enjoy doing, and what support do they need to continue growing and contributing to the organization. The more conversations we're able to enable between different groups, where leaders are sharing their challenges, visions, and priorities, and employees stepping up to say, hey, here's what I can do with what I have, but then here's what I can do if I go for a particular course or I get a particular mentor. Really enabling those conversations so that HR is not the one that has the burden of executing this, but everybody steps up and participates in this, because it is truly a collaborative process. There are a lot of diverse ideas, a lot of diverse talent out there, and we need to leverage that so that everybody is an HR partner and it's not just that one person.
Thank you, Anuja. Jess.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I just feel for all of you who are HR departments of one. It is hard. It is hard when you are the only person and there is so much work that needs to be done. But I love what Anuja was saying about making sure that you're, getting everyone's buy-in, understanding what's needed most. It's really about, evaluating and prioritizing. When you have, you can only do so much as one person. And so very first thing is, just give yourself a little bit of forgiveness and permission that you're not going to get everything you dreamed of that you could get done. If you had a team of 20, you would get a lot more done. So it's okay. You're just one person. Figure out by, talking with everyone else on the team, what are the most important things? If there was only one skill that you could help everyone develop, what's the one that your team specifically needs the most? So trying to prioritize and figure out. And then you can always also, depending on your team's budget, bring in someone else to help collaborate who's an expert at something specifically. I collaborate with a lot of HR partners of one to help them bring in training and development that they don't have the time to do that. And so certainly bringing in other people, asking your, CEO if you can bring in someone else can be really helpful. Maybe it's not someone at an expert level. Maybe you can just bring in someone, that's, at an assistant level. And then the other thing is, I'm going to say it, you're an HR department of one, start using AI, because it is truly going to help you a lot. Think of it as your intern. What are some of the tasks that you do repeatedly, the emails that you send out repeatedly, that you need to have a little bit of help just speeding up that process? And offloading some of those tasks and being able to, help you excel a little bit, that will also be really important.
Thank you. Emilia.
I would say it's always very important for an HR department, what I'm going to say, but if you're one, is very important for you. You need to learn the business a lot. You need to understand what is happening in the organization, in the market, in the landscape, what is going on, what the challenges are in the business, not HR this time, but yes, the business. And then match the things that you know that HR needs to do with what is mainly needed for the organization to succeed. If you are capable of linking those things, everybody will listen to you more often and will be there for you, and you will engage everyone in what you needs to be done. This is the first thing. The second one is ask for help. You are not going to do it all by yourself. You're not going to do all alone, and even all the things that it needs to be done at the same time. Yes, that's true. But when I said ask for help, it's not hire someone, it's not hire a consultant or something. There are a lot of places like this one, that this WebEx, and a lot of places where you can sync with another HR professional and can help you think about where you are, what you need. And those moments, from my experience, are relaxing. You know, when you talk to someone outside the organization and they said, oh, the same is happening to me. Okay, that's amazing. Someone else is being there with me. And this is critical. Ask for help.
And I'm going to jump back in. Don't feel bad about all the HR jokes doing the rounds. They're brutal sometimes, but hey, just laugh and move on. You're doing a great job, everyone.
Thank you so very much, Anuja, Jess, Emilia. It was a joy and it was a privilege having you on my screen. Thank you so much for taking the time and the energy to be here today. Everybody in the audience, thank you for being here and always engaging with the panelists and with each other in the comments. Is just so great to see all this energy around our conversations. Jessa, thank you for having our backs. And I hope I will get to welcome as many of you soon. And have a great rest of the day. Have a great rest of the week. And have a great rest of your experience. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Happy
you.
to connect,
Thanks for the
everybody.
invitation.
Take care.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.